you fall, watch you lose in control. I'm seeing red, watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break, face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, fight fans? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, dude?
Not a lot. Just another day in paradise, grinding this MMA schedule. Like, it feels like these are all. I've enjoyed the fights, and I think we're probably gonna both enjoy talking about the fights. But these like indiscriminate 5 weeks in a row of UFC fight nights just kind of all like blend together, you know.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. I mean, we talked about this before, but there's never like an off season, for MMA, which would be kind of nice because
we had one. We had a little break, remember? It was kind of nice.
They're just too far in between because, I'm a big football fan. Football is back. Next Thursday is opening kickoff. I got my fantasy draft coming up. I know you're not a big football guy, right?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I can pretend to be. I can be, what am I, a Giants fan this year? Let's do it.
Yeah, to be a Giants fan for sure. It's just like, you get so much time off of it and you salivate, right? When it's about to come back, and you just don't really ever get that for MMA. Like, yeah, you look at big cards, but the in between the big cards, there's just so many fights, and usually every fight card has a pretty big fight and a meaningful fight, right? But I can't complain. I love watching fights, and there is a lot of it to digest.
Yeah, that's why there's hardcore fans like us because I think otherwise, if all you ever do is want to feel like building up to a big fight, it also feels like you're missing so much in between because there's so many goddamn fights. Like, if I'm looking forward, we're going to talk about UFC 268 and 269, which are probably going to be fucking awesome. There's still going to be a billion fights in between now and then, so it's hard to let yourself get excited about those big fights,
Yeah, it's especially like the Contender Series came back last night, which was pretty awesome. Did he mix in PFL, Bellator, and a little bit of everything in between? There is a lot of content to take in.
I mean, that's why I think, I grew up a football fan. I do like watching baseball. I don't watch as much of it as I would like, but I just don't have time, man. If there's MMA on, I'm almost always going to be watching it, and if there's jiu-jitsu on, I'm going to be watching it. And between those two things, what else do I have time for?
Yeah, my girlfriend definitely gets sick of it because, especially with football season, it's like Sunday's devoted to football. You throw in the Saturday night fight cards, everything in between. Yeah, it's a lot, but keeps us doing this, which we love. So
for sure,
keep it coming.
For sure.
I think we should start off today talking about, crazy enough, what probably was the biggest fight this weekend. At least the biggest fight that drew in probably the most eyes, especially the casual eyes. And that was Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. There's a lot of different avenues we can go here, but let's start with this. Obviously, you watched the fight, correct?
Most of it not legal means, right, but right. Yes.
Yeah. We'll just say we both bought the fight, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I got to say, man, I think there's a lot that you can say negatively about Tyron Woodley, and we'll get to that in a second. But for the most part, I got to say I was pretty impressed with what Jake Paul did. I thought he stuck to a game plan. I think he actually did fight through some adversity. I mean, the one time Tyron really committed and landed a big shot, I mean, it nearly put Jake Paul through the ropes. I thought he dealt with a little bit of fatigue in the fight. But all in all, given that he's, relatively new to boxing and he's only this was his fourth pro fight, and obviously he took a huge step up in competition. Again, Tyron Woodley is not a pro boxer by any means, but he's the guy that fought professionally in MMA for, 15 years. He was a defending UFC world champion. He fought for a Strikeforce belt. I mean, the guy has done it all. So given the huge step up in competition, I was actually pretty damn impressed with Jake Paul. I can't lie.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair response because I feel like responses about Jake Paul have been all over the place. I feel like you have people on one end of the spectrum that say, well, Tyron Woodley was a wrestler. He was timid the last 5 years of his MMA career, right? People discount Jake Paul's what he did here by really putting down Tyron Woodley after the fact, by the way. And then you have, of course, I'm sure there's people on the other end of the spectrum that think Jake Paul could beat fucking Tyson Fury next week, right? I'm sure there's people out there that think that, but I do think he deserves credit for what he did. Like, yes, obviously MMA striking is different than boxing striking. Obviously, that's not what Tyron Woodley has been doing his whole life, but like, it's worth something. Tyron Woodley almost assuredly has more training in pure boxing than Jake Paul even.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because Tyron Woodley was a guy that would often put on boxing shoes and work with just boxing trainers. Obviously, he was preparing for MMA fights, so it's not exactly a one-to-one comparison. But I think just straight hands, Tyron Woodley has more time in his life training. So, I think Jake Paul is doing as good as somebody who is, one, actually working hard at this. I think he's actually trying to be good. Two, has the time and resources to get like the best training possible.
Yep.
Three, is reasonably athletic. And four, like, has no stage fright. Like, the guy is actually performing on the night, which I think is pretty worthwhile. So I think I think you broke it down exactly fair, like, right, that the guy deserves some credit, but also, dude, I don't want to talk too much about what happened in the fight because that's kind of beside the point with these matches, I feel like. And I feel like both of them, like, after last week's episode and after that episode with Jeremy, I really kind of dug into the promo of this fight, and I felt like Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul sold the hell out of this fight. I was invested.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
yelling at Tyron Woodley's mom.
Dude, Tyron Woodley was the perfect B-side to Jake Paul. I mean, I thought he handled everything very well. I thought they were absolute dynamite together. I think the promotion was excellent. And yeah, dude, I was invested. Like, I was legitimately pumped up for a boxing match featuring Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. And again, I will say for Jake Paul too, like, he showed he has a pretty damn good jab.
Yeah, and he fought through adversity.
He does, like, he puts combinations pretty well together. Like, he was throwing that jab right to the body, come back up top with a hook that he was landing pretty often. Again, he stuck to a game plan. I questioned the ability of him to take a punch. And I thought he took a punch pretty well. And again, he stuck to a game plan. Now, if we look at Tyron Woodley, kind of the demons that plagued him at the end of his MMA career, sans the Vicente Luque fight, which is insane that he would go out there and get into a firefight with Vicente Luque, who is one of the most dangerous finishers in MMA currently, and then kind of resort back to not throwing punches against Jake Paul. Because I truly believe if Tyron Woodley threw his hands more, I think he would have won that fight. He gave away too many early rounds. I mean, dude, there was many rounds in that fight where I want to say he threw single digits in the round. Not only landed, but I mean, you're just not going to win that fight fighting that style. And again, like, especially fighting Jake Paul, the money is with Jake Paul, right? So any close rounds, I got to think they're going to go to Jake Paul, even though one judge did give the fight to Tyron Woodley, which I don't think Tyron Woodley won that fight whatsoever. I thought Jake Paul was the rightful and deserved winner. But yeah, man, I just wish Tyron would have thrown his hands more, because I think it would have made for a more compelling fight, and I truly believe he could have won that fight.
Yeah, for people on Team MMA, it was awful, right? Because when Tyron Woodley is bad, you know what bad Tyron Woodley looks like, and that was it. So yeah, I mean, I think I have a love-hate relationship with Tyron Woodley. I feel like I have for a long time. I really like the way he sold this fight. I liked what he was saying when he was champion in the UFC, but then he has performances like that where it's disappointing. But I don't know, man. It was a stinker of a fight, but I feel like that hardly affects how people are talking about it. That hardly affects what's next for Jake Paul. Like I said, when we had Jeremy Harridges on, like, I feel like what actually happens in between the ropes here is not super, super important, because the machine's just going to keep on going. The promo train is going to continue to roll with Jake Paul. Like,
It is.
and the Paul brothers, whatever is going on. I do not like their gimmick, right? It doesn't speak to me, but part of that is because they want guys like me to dislike them. But
Yeah.
God, I respect the hell out of their hustle. I respect what they're doing, making something from nothing, man. They're doing it. That felt like a huge fight atmosphere. I love the walkouts too. Those were some of the coolest walkouts I've seen in a minute. So I think people shit on this and call it a circus, but have you been to the circus? Like, it's fun.
It's
fun.
fun.
This was
Yeah.
fun.
Right.
This was fun. So.
I gotta say, I think they both kind of dropped the ball in the post fight. One, Tyron Woodley basically begging for a rematch, and two, I don't understand why Jake Paul even and whatever. There is many like that is the last fight I want to see again. It wasn't competitive enough. Tyron didn't do enough to warrant a rematch. Like, and for Jake Paul to like even like consider and be like, oh yeah, well if you get the tattoo and blah 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 blah, like, dude, you guys already made a bet for the loser to get a tattoo. Like, don't make like you should have literally you just beat the guy. You should have deaded it right there and called out and planned your next move. I don't know why he even gave Tyron the time of day there. It was weird to see Tyron like begging for the rematch there and trying to make a case. Look, dude, like if you went out there and they threw hands and got into some sloppy brawl and I don't know, he knocked Jake Paul down or something, or you know, he had a few moments in the fight, it's like, all right, maybe you could sell a rematch or if Tyron won, but like, dude, nobody wants to see that goddamn rematch whatsoever.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I feel like a week from now, people are going to forget that Tyron Woodley was ever the other side to Jake Paul.
Exactly. That is a great point.
Like, I don't know why we did that. I'm with you that was a slip up on both their parts. To maybe not Woodley. Woodley is just trying to do whatever he can to get in something else to keep his name relevant. But Jake Paul, did feel like a bit of a slip up for him to like acknowledge Woodley. But regardless, I know there's still right. Jake Paul is holding out about like you have to get the tattoo or something. But I think they're going to stop talking about that, and us as fans are just going to kind of forget.
Jake Paul's going to move on 100%.
Yes, for sure. Because he has so many callers. He has so many people that want to fight him.
Absolutely. Well, that's my next question. Like, do you have any lean about where you want to see him go or where he should go, or do you even care what's next for him?
I think giving me the option to say I don't care is good because, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm along for the ride. Part of me wants to say, well, he could just fight another like old and or retired MMA fighter. Another part of me says that's boring. Like, I'm over that, but who says I wouldn't tune in yet again? I think he probably wants to step up in competition, which kind of limits his options, right? Like he can't go from Tyron Woodley to fucking Tito Ortiz or something like that. He has to actually maybe fight a better fighter, maybe a retired boxer instead of a retired MMA fighter.
I mean, if he wants to stay the MMA route, we'll see. Speaking of Tito Ortiz, what happens in that fight, but I think Anderson Silva could be an interesting option.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you watched the undercard, but Tommy Fury didn't look good whatsoever in this fight. But I still think that is a big fight. I mean, obviously Tommy Fury was on a reality show, so he has all that that backing. He's big in the UK. He's got the connection being Tyson Fury's half brother or something. The guy looks like $1 million. I think he could book that fight, and he's big. He's 7-0. Again, it's what you're getting with it. The guys are going to talk some shit. You bring in a lot of like the casual eyes. Other than that, yeah, I'm kind of just along for the ride. I don't really care. He's going to fight again, though. Did you see like him make the retired tweet and then come like I don't know what he's doing there.
The Conor McGregor playbook.
Yeah, it's weird.
Announce your retirement. Do you think Jake Paul would ever fight Jorge Masvidal? Do you think that fight would ever happen? Because they had a little back and forth.
Well, here's the thing, dude. Anytime you talk about him fighting guys specifically in the UFC, you have to get the UFC guys to play ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to get the UFC management and Dana White to play ball. It's not as simple. Tyron Woodley was released from his contract so he could do this, but like a Jorge Masvidal, like maybe he has enough pull. Obviously, Conor would have enough pull to do whatever the fuck he wants, but any of these other guys he's calling out is, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it's got to be some sort of free agent for sure. I feel like there's no way Masvidal has enough pull to be allowed to do that without getting out of his contract.
I don't think Conor is at the rock bottom where he's going to fight Jake Paul yet, but it's going to be coming very soon, especially if he doesn't win his next comeback fight, because that shit may have sailed very far away.
Yeah, it's rough. It's been a rough few days on social media for Conor. I feel like getting owned, as the kids say, by Nate Diaz.
Yeah, getting owned, but maybe that third fight is looming. Nate did tease a fight with Vicente Luque. I don't know if you saw that.
Ooh,
Vicente
I did
Luque
not.
has been calling him out for a while, and Nate. Pretty much all Nate did was share the video with a fist emoji, but I mean, you get Nate to acknowledge. Usually, once Nate acknowledges you, that's like the route he wants to go.
I will say, if a fight like that happens, I bet Nate Diaz would be like plus 200 or plus 250, and I would pick him to win that fight. I think, just based on durability and submission defense.
That would be a wild fight.
Make it 5 rounds. I think he could win that fight.
Vicente Luque is going to go right at him. So
yeah, exactly.
That'd be wild. All right, let's move on to the fights that actually happened this weekend. Awesome main event. Big stakes, and the fight really delivered. Edson Barboza, Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze gets a huge win and really announces himself to that division. I thought, if you watch the fight, the first round, and I got to say, dude, I was talking with Dana Vreeland about this too, man. I was literally like cringing every single time one of those guys threw a leg kick. Because A, they throw those kicks so freaking fast and powerful, and B, dude, they were checking those fucking kicks like crazy, dude. I was like thinking Chris Weidman, seeing floppy legs. Thankfully, nothing happened with that.
Yeah, dude, I'm happy that I watched it like the next day, so I knew the result. For sure, I would have had that apprehension that like I'm about to see a shin get snapped again, aren't I?
I was getting scared, man. Those guys throw with bad intentions on every kick. But as I was saying, the first round starts off pretty evenly matched, and then towards the end, Giga kind of really puts it on Barboza, and then in the second round, Barboza kind of comes back, and I was thinking, man, like is Giga starting to slow down? It seemed like Barboza kind of, started to get a little bit of control back, and then Giga turned it on again in the third round. He finishes Barboza, which is notoriously hard to do. I mean, you saw Barboza after getting staggered was still, relatively with it, but man, Giga puts himself into a really interesting position in a division that is just littered with studs. And the thing about that division is, I know Giga's been calling out Max Holloway. I don't know if he's going to jump that high. Let me ask you this. As great as the win was, it was a fight between the number 9 and 10 guys in the division. Giga has since moved up to number 8. Max Holloway is all the way up at number 1. And you look at some of the guys he would have to jump. Yair Rodriguez, Jan Sung Jun, Calvin Kattar, our boy Arnold Allen. Who would you like to see Giga fight next?
So I agree with you that I don't think the Holloway fight is going to happen for him. Let me throw a name out for you. The Korean Zombie.
Yeah, I like it. So for me, I think that there's 3 names that make a lot of sense. And again, like I've been rock hard on that fight since they announced it, but Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez, I need to see that, dude. I need to see it. Keep that fight together. I think the Korean Zombie would make a ton of sense because he is still a big name, and although he did lose his last fight, I believe he's like 3-1 in his last 4. Again, I gotta shout his name out again. Our boy Arnold Allen is on what, a 12-fight win streak or something insane like that. He's all the way at number 6 finally. The returning Josh Emmett too could be a fun fight because Josh Emmett can bang, although he was really, really messed up after the last win over Shane Burgos.
I think a lot of this too is like you got to think about styles. Like, does the UFC, do they want him, Giga Chikadze, to succeed? Right? Like, I think they do. Right? They're continuing to give him strikers. I guess you kind of run out of options the higher up the rankings you go. The reason I want that Korean Zombie fight is because I want to see if Chikadze can deal with the grappling that I think Korean Zombie would bring. Also, that's like a bananas fight. That's fucking violence all over the place. But yeah, man, featherweight is stacked. Arnold Allen, I would love. It's crazy that he has no fight booked right now.
I know.
I mean, he really does need a fight too.
He
mean, if you could do, is Cater booked right now?
Cater's not booked yet. That's another fun one too.
I could see Chikadze against Cater, even though Cater lost his last fight. No, I'm sticking with Korean Zombie for my number one pick for Chikadze's next fight. And then you could do winner is right there for a title shot, or maybe waiting in line for a title shot, because I'm with you that Yair and who am I blanking on? Who is Yair?
Max.
Yes, that fight has to happen.
I really want to see that fight. That fight's insane. I'm on board with Korean Zombie as well. I think that would probably be my number one pick. Number two would be Arnold Allen, because I feel like we waited so long to get him that fight. He gets the win, and now it's kind of like back to being stagnant. So we got to get him in there. He's ranked number 6. But dude, you up and down this division. This division is just freaking awesome. So many hitters in this division.
Absolutely. And Emmett getting back, I don't know what his timetable is for returning yet, or I don't know if you've heard anything, but
I haven't
once
heard
he's back in there, I think he is in the mix, so to speak, with every single person on that list we just named.
Also, coming in quietly at number 13, Movsar Evloev. That guy is going to ascend. He's another guy that is on the cusp, should be getting a big fight.
Dude, if you look at the rankings, he is maybe the best grappler. Maybe not Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega might be better, but featherweight is kind of light on wrestlers right now. And I think Movsar Evloev has like the ability to basically take down everybody above him in the division.
Featherweight's booming, man.
Yeah.
A lot of fun stuff going on there. So let's skip around this card really quick. Let's talk about the other 2 fights that happened on the main card, and then we'll swing back to the Ultimate Fighter fights. Daniel Rodriguez defeats Kevin Lee. I thought pretty clear-cut decision. I thought Kevin Lee had a good first round, and then Rodriguez kind of just took over. And I know a lot of people are just ready to bury Kevin Lee. I'm still not ready to bury him, and I don't have the Kevin Lee affection that I do for Kelvin Gastelum and some other guys that are right there and just can't seem to put it together. But Kevin Lee, dude, he's still freaking good. He showed a lot of promise in this fight. I just don't think 170 is possibly the right division for him. I don't know if 155 is, so he's kind of stuck in that range. And also, I just think that Danny Rodriguez is freaking nasty. His striking is really good. He showed that he has a good enough ground game to defend takedowns and get up when he needs to. He's got a good gas tank taking this fight on short notice and going 3 hard rounds. I'm more high on Daniel Rodriguez than I am continuing like the downslide on Kevin Lee, if that makes sense.
It does. I think I'm a little bit harder on Kevin Lee than you. I think I don't want to take too much away from Rodriguez, who did. I wasn't sure he'd be able to get back up. He did show that he was able to do that. As far as Kevin Lee is concerned, though, I think it's clear that his back-taking ability, his wrestling is still like elite, right? I think some of the best in welterweight or lightweight if he ever decides to go back. But it seems almost like his striking is regressing. I don't know what his plan of attack on the feet was. So much of it was just not feinting, not attacking, just literally standing in front of Danny Rodriguez, eating a ton of shots. He felt like a welterweight Gian Vellante for some parts of that fight. Where it's like, dude, Kevin, move your feet, feint, like do something other than kind of sit there frozen eating shots. So I think I don't want to bury him because, like I said, I think especially if you match him with a wrestler, I think Kevin Lee can go tit for tat in that game, like the best with anybody in the world. I mean, it was a weird submission, but he fucking took Michael Chiesa's back and choked him out immediately. Yes. Like that's how good Kevin Lee can be. Mounted Tony Ferguson and was damn near beat him too. But his striking, I don't know if he's moving around to too many gyms, so he can't like find his style. But I feel like his striking is piss poor, and he has a little bit too much confidence in it. Way too much confidence in it because he spends too much time on the feet. Like
it's weird. It seems like he just hits walls. Like he'll do great in these fights, and a couple of those fights you mentioned, like the Tony Ferguson fight. I think that Kevin Lee could have probably done that for the majority of the fight, and for whatever reason, I mean, he just he loses his head and gets triangled. Like he has a great first round here against Danny Rodriguez, and then, like you said, the next 2 rounds he's content to just kind of sit there and get beat up on the feet and shoot these extremely telegraphed takedowns. I don't know what it is, but we got to give our props to Danny Rodriguez. And another name I throw out a lot he's my boy. How about this for Danny Rodriguez? Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Ooh, I'm into that.
Could be a barn burner. Ponzinibbio ranked number 12. Danny Rodriguez slides in at number 15.
Who Ponzinibbio won his last fight, right?
He beat Miguel Baeza
and
in war.
Yeah, I'm into that. I like that. I can never forget about Ponzinibbio. Rodriguez coming in at 15. Yeah, that fight makes a ton of sense, especially if they want to give Rodriguez continued climbs up the rankings.
I mean, you could also throw him in there with the guy that Kevin Lee was supposed to fight, undefeated Sean Brady.
I want to see. I would give me Daniel Rodriguez against a striker. He just fought a grappler. I think Sean Brady might take him down. What about
Jeff Neal?
Jeff Neal, Muslim Salikov, anybody basically in that 10 to 15 ranking.
Yeah, I agree. Daniel Rodriguez definitely a player in the division. Dude, I was on Gumby Breland's podcast filling in this past week for his co-host Jeff Fox, and I went on this crazy rant saying that basically bet your house on Mahmoud Muradov against Gerald Meerschaert. I guess I didn't give Gerald Meerschaert credit. And let me say this though. I ran back my tune quick and I said that Andre Petrovsky was in fact the biggest lock this weekend, and he almost blew it as well. But dude, Gerald Meerschaert weathers the storm. I mean, I was feeling good in that first round. Muradov was cruising, and then Gerald Meerschaert starts banging him up on the feet and then takes his back and chokes him out. Mahmoud Muradov was on a 14-fight win streak dating back to 2014 or something crazy, but man, GM3 still doing it. He was like a plus 500 underdog. Crazy stuff.
He came out there looking like the purple belt father of 3 that shows up to your noon class, just fucking swanging and banging and going after subs on the feet. Super slow, heaving his legs into leg kicks, but still landing them. I loved it. Let me see. Meerschaert is slowly, it's taken him a long time, becoming one of my favorite fights. A middleweight that isn't afraid to pull guard is kind of crazy to me.
Oh, he's just well-rounded. He's got heavy hands. He's nasty on the mat. I didn't put enough respect on his name.
I mean, Muradov had been looking quite good. I just think he gassed out a little bit. I mean, I think he got overexcited about the work he was putting in the first round, like you said.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. Props to Gumby Vreeland for picking that one and being so confident about it.
Oh shit! That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. He picked Gerald Meerschaert. Yes, he was confidently as well. So, I'm the shitter in that one. The aforementioned Andre Petrovsky got a win over Michael Gilmore. It got a little bit dicey there, but Petrovsky ends up beating the crap out of Gilmore in the third round via strikes from the gift wrap position. Petrovsky was the number 1 pick for Ortega on the show. He ended up getting upset by eventual champion Brian Battle in the semifinals. Here's my question. I'm wondering how they're doing the Ultimate Fighter now, because you remember back in the day, the Ultimate Fighter finale card was littered with all the guys from the show. And this time around, only Petrovsky, Michael Gilmore, and Gilbert Urbina got fights. And Urbina was only in the finale because the finalist, Trayshawn Gore, got injured. I don't know if these guys are just going to go back to the regional scenes, or they're going to go maybe to the Contender Series or just fight on later cards. It definitely wasn't an Ultimate Fighter finale card feel from back in the day. Yeah,
and I get the sense it'll be a case-by-case basis in terms of who they keep on other than the winners. I thought Petrovsky looked pretty good. I mean, I watched one episode of the show this season, and I think he fought in it, and I was pretty impressed with him then.
Yeah, dude, he was the first fight of the season.
He seems like UFC caliber, not phenomenal, but he is super strong and a good wrestler. He seems like he could be fine as a middleweight. I was going to ask you before you said who Petrovsky lost to. I mean, good for Brian Battle, if I was watching those 2 fights, Petrovsky and Battle, them fight separately, I would think Petrovsky's way better than this guy. So maybe I'll go back and watch that.
It's a good fight to watch. Brian Battle or Petrovsky kind of controls the first round, and then Brian Battle. Here's the thing, he was the last pick on the show, and he
Kelvin
just
Gastelum.
Dude, yes, exactly. And the crazy thing about Brian Battle is he took his first fight, I want to say like 5 years ago, with zero experience, no striking, no grappling, no wrestling. And you look at him now, he's the Ultimate Fighter champ. And I think he's put together a well-rounded game. He's very patient. He's pretty good everywhere. He's big for the division. I got to say, dude, both of these winners, Ricky Turcios as well, I'm pretty damn high on both of them. I think they are both poised to have very successful careers. I think the Ultimate Fighter, and again, like I was pretty invested this season, which I hadn't been in years, and maybe that was because, they took a couple years off, and it looked like they were going to take it behind the barn and put it out of its misery, and now it's back. But I enjoyed the season, and I think both of these guys are very deserving of these contracts.
Yeah, you know what, man? I think I'm being a little harsh on Bryan Battle, considering that was the first time I had ever seen him fight. Because you look at his record, he has an amateur win over Impa Kasangane, which is really impressive because that guy's a freak athlete, and an amateur win over Cody Brundage, who fought William Knight Thick Willie on the Contender Series. In any event, yeah, I think I say this all the time on this podcast, but the Ultimate Fighter gets shit on for people saying it doesn't produce talent, and it doesn't produce as much as it used to. But look up and down the UFC rankings and tell me how many of those guys were on the Ultimate Fighter, right? Robert Whittaker,
Michael Chiesa,
Kamara Usman, Michael Chiesa.
Yeah.
You go up and fucking down. Let me see here. I mean, I don't want to. Tony Ferguson.
Vicente Luque, wasn't he on the Ultimate Fighter?
Yep.
Kelvin
Thiago
Gastelum.
Santos, Kelvin Gastelum, all these guys, for sure it's not super necessary. Those guys could have gone through some Contender Series type show for sure. But who's to say Bryan Battle in 5-6 years is not like a top 5 middleweight or whatever weight class he's at? Brandon Moreno, endless. They for sure it's less, right? It used to be like 80% of the guys made it to the UFC and kind of flourished in the UFC. Here, it's just going to be the top 3-4 guys, probably that have long careers in the UFC, and that's okay.
Here's the thing too, and I said this previously, but what I liked about this season was it got away from all and it was, again, it's still a reality show, but it wasn't as much as all right, we need a Junie Browning or a Chris Lieben in here. We're just going to get these guys drunk and put them on camera. No, these guys all seem relatively cool with one another, which I liked. There wasn't any of the bullshit. It was just focused on a lot of training and looking into the guys' personal lives, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to give it a try. I'll give it another try next year.
I mean, listen, ask me again by Ultimate Fighter 31, and I might be all right, dude, enough, fuck it, get it out of here. But I like this season again. Ricky Turcios, Brady Heistand put on a banger of a fight. I really do hope that Brady Heistand gets a shot in the UFC. I think he deserves it, and I hope they run back Bryan Battle immediately with Trayshawn Gore, who should have been in this fight. I think they gotta do that one.
Yeah, that was my first time seeing Ricky Turcios fight too. He's good. Savage. What an animal. I would love to see him fight again.
Dude, you can put him in a lot of really fun fights.
For sure.
Looking down the rest of this card really quickly, Abdul Razak Hassan, goddamn, knocks out Alessio Di Chirico in 17 seconds with just a baseball bat-like kick to the face. Sam Alvey and Wellington Turman were in one of the most odd fights. Sam Alvey has a hissy fit afterwards. Very, very strange. Dustin Jacoby, super high on him. He gets a big win. Pat Sabatini with a nasty heel hook on Jamal Emmers. Folks, remember, the heel hook always beats the toe hold. And then Mana Martinez in the opener, you had to pull out the cry rags for that one. Touching stuff, getting the win for his coach who recently passed.
Yeah, it was a rough way. Not a rough way, but a touching way to start the night.
It was a split decision, and the right guy won, thankfully.
Yeah, that would have been extra fucking sad if this guy's out here trying to honor his coach and wins a split decision that he deserved to loses a split decision that he deserved to
that would have been
win.
horrible.
Yeah, that Pat Sabatini, how often do you see guys going for dueling leg locks in 50-50 in MMA?
Never. Very rare.
Hilarious. You knew too the second. I think did Jamal Emmers, was he trying to toe hold the wrong leg too? I feel like I can't remember. Or there's one that works way better than the other. the second he grabbed a hold of that toe hold, I was like, this is not.
Yeah, it's not
This
good.
is not
He
what you
didn't,
want to be doing, Jamal.
and he didn't defend his leg. Sabatini
Yeah.
had a nice, bite on the knee line. He closed off his lock, and then, obviously he had the proper rotation and everything. It looked bad. I hope Jamal Emmers is okay, because I'm still pretty high on Jamal Emmers, but Pat Sabatini's he's a beast, man. He's nasty.
Yeah, I wanted to say Jamal Emmers. Maybe we shouldn't write him all the way off, but I thought he was gonna be.
Well, you put me on to Jamal Emmers back in the day.
Yeah, I thought he looked so good, and he's just had some tough loss. I mean, he fought fucking Giga Chikadze, I think, in his UFC debut.
Very close fight too.
Like he's had some tough luck. I mean, yeah, he got submitted here, but how many people get submitted by inside heel hooks from 50-50 and MMA? Like, I don't know. I thought this guy was gonna be really, really good in the UFC, and he's just run into some stumbling blocks.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. He's still young enough to where he might be able to turn it around.
Yeah.
Let's look forward to some fights that are coming up. PFL, their tournament or their finale is set. There's going to be, a bunch of fights on the card. It's going to be going down from the Seminole Hard Rock Casino October 27th. If we could really quickly just run down the card. Clarissa Shields is back on this card, fighting Abigail Montez. The welterweight final, Ray Cooper III taking on Magomed Karamov. We spoke about that before. Karamov actually has a win over Ray Cooper at lightweight. Loic Radzhabov, I believe the number 1 seed, taking on Roush Manfro. Roush actually beat Clay Collard in the last fight. Didn't think he won that fight. But Kayla Harrison's on this card, taking on Taylor Gordado. Heavyweight final between Ante Delija and Bruno Capoloza, who we spoke about. I'm pretty damn high on Bruno Capoloza. Movli Hasbulayev taking on Chris Wade for featherweight. That should be a good one. And then Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr. taking on Martine Hamlet. So there's your finals. All title fights aside from the Clarissa Shields fight. Should be good. I'm really liking what PFL's doing this season.
I think it's good that they didn't do the New Year's Eve show again.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching that. Nobody's tuning in to PFL on New Year's Eve. They did that, I think, the past 2 times. They did
I like how they're doing the tournament finals. It's one show instead of having that weird. I love the 2 fights in one night, but remember they were doing draws, and then it was weird how guys were advancing, right? Because didn't they have some weird criteria or something?
I think it was if it's a draw after 2 rounds, the winner, the person who advances, is the person who won the first round.
Yeah, it was something really weird and confusing. Because I remember Chris Wade got screwed with one of the fights.
Yeah, it was an odd. They were only doing that for the quarter and the semifinals. Yeah, you can do. There's a good way to do tournaments and a bad way. Invicta does a good tournament, one night tournament. We should also talk about that knockout that happened in Invicta before we. Dude, I was there. That was not to brag or whatever, but I've seen a ton of fights live. That was one of the coolest knockouts I've ever seen live, and I was lucky enough that I was paying close attention. My sight line was not blocked, but if anybody has not seen it, I'm sure you have if you listen to this podcast. Emily Ducote knocking out Danielle Taylor with turns her lights off with a clean right hand. Everybody in that building, it felt like 10 fucking minutes, because you know what's about to happen, and Emily Ducote's about to punt her head through the fucking ceiling. You could hear a collective because everybody knew, oh, she's unconscious, but she's just standing up with her hands down. And then, man, that's without a doubt the best Invicta knockout I've ever seen. One of the best knockouts, period, I've ever seen. And that should be on everybody's top 5 best knockouts of the year list across all MMA.
It was incredible. It was weird too. I wonder why the body does that. Was Danielle Taylor was she there enough to where she was able to kind of keep her body up? It was just weird how she literally froze in a hunched over position. It was just it was weird, but goddamn. I mean, both the punch and then the kick were absolute savagery. Yeah, that will definitely be on. It should be on everybody's list at the end of the year.
Dude, low key, Emily Ducote has like fucking power because she knocked out. Was it Janessa Miranda? Yeah, she had another, not as clean of a knockout, another Invicta knockout that I've seen where she just drops a girl like a bag of fucking bricks and then follows up. Like for a flyweight, she can crack. And I feel like I can't remember if she had. So she was never with the UFC, which I feel like
Bellator though, correct?
She fought in Bellator a lot and had like 3 losses in a row, and she got let go. And she's actually pretty good. I mean, I think she could be welcome back to Bellator and be a player in their flyweight division like immediately.
I mean, flyweight's a division that's always starving for talent, Bellator and UFC. So
for sure,
yeah, maybe she gets signed because I mean, dude, that knockout,
holy shit, yeah, it was crazy.
All right, UFC announced or at least they released a bunch of fights on this UFC 268 card. If we can run down them really quick, the headliner, not that surprising, Kamara Usman taking on Colby Covington. I'm glad that they're going to get this ball rolling. Whether it was Covington or not, I'm just happy to see Kamara back in there fighting. You know, they could finally close the. I'm thinking they can close the book on this chapter because I'm pretty damn high on Kamara Usman. I don't know if there's just I just don't think I think everything that Colby can do, Kamara can do better, right? I think he's got an excellent chin. I think he's a more powerful striker than Colby. I think he's the better wrestler than Colby. He can equal Colby on the gas tank. Are you giving Colby much of a chance in this fight, or do you think it's just rinse and repeat from the first one?
No, exactly what you just said. Basically, not only do I think Usman is better in basically every area, but he's like also, because remember their first fight, that was before Usman had hooked up with Trevor Whitman and that whole team. So I think Usman has like improved kind of through the roof. Maybe Covington has too. I know he's changed camps, so maybe we just haven't seen it from him.
We've seen so much more of Usman since that first fight.
And Usman has just looked better and better and better and better.
Dude.
And he hasn't taken really any damage, right? I guess he got kind of dropped a little bit in the Gilbert Burns fight, but otherwise he's fine. So even if it turns into another kind of blood and guts, who's more durable, who can hit harder type of war, like their first fight was, I still favor Usman in that fight, like pretty heavily, I think.
Kamaru, dude, if he finishes Colby or even, decisions him in impressive fashion, like he's got to be the 2021 fighter of the year. The 2 knockouts over Burns and Masvidal, and then, if he parlays that into another stoppage over Colby Covington, it's going to be hard to argue, man.
Yeah. We'll see what Brandon Moreno does. We'll see who else is, I guess it's only like fucking September. I don't know who else to think about. There's not a ton of people fighting a lot. Yeah.
I think the real head scratcher here is this co-main event. Rose Namajunas is going to run it back with Zhang Weili. Not a big fan of it, I got to say, dude, for a couple different reasons. One, here's the thing, like, Rose knocked around, 2 minutes in the first fight, right? Like, it wasn't competitive. And that's not to say, like, this fight is not going to be competitive. I think it can be a completely different fight where Zhang can win. But if she does lose, you're basically eliminating her from competition, right? I mean, from contention. She's got to go back in the line as long as Rose holds the title. And 2, you already had a built-in storyline with Carla Esparza. Esparza's on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. She finished Yan Xiaonan in the last fight. She beat Rose for the inaugural title. Here, dude, you could have done Carla versus Rose. Why not match up Zhang Weili and Joanna? Arguably the best women's fight ever. I just think I don't think this was necessary. I think it puts Zhang Weili in a really bad spot if she does lose, takes all the wind on her sails. And you know what's another crazy thing before I swing it back to you? Dude, in the last 3 or 4 years or something, Rose has only fought 3 people. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, she's been so inactive. I'm with you though, man. How is the Carla Esparza fight not getting booked? I think I think a lot of it has to do with maybe the UFC really, really, really is trying to break into international markets, the Chinese market a lot more. I think they want to continue to push Zhang Weili, which is fine. Like they can do that, but I think there's not really a good sporting explanation for why she should get a title shot over Carlos Barza, who has a 5-fight win streak coming off that like really good finish. And yeah, like everything you said, the built-in storyline, I think Carlos Barza made more sense. But I think the UFC in this instance was just motivated by, I mean, we saw when Zhang Weili was champion, like the scenes from China, she is pretty well beloved. So I think, you know, it would behoove the UFC to have a Chinese champion, and they're hoping that'll happen again. But one of the very first things you said was like, well, if she loses again and I favor Rose again. I'm not saying she'll knock her out right away. I think that's probably unlikely even, but you know, I think Rose is the best strawweight in the world. I think when I wrote an article, I'm going to brag about this if all these are fucking right, predicting the champions at the end of 2021. And I picked Rose just on the grounds that I think from her to Zhang Weili to Joanna, I think Rose is the best strawweight. And I think she would beat Carlos Barza too, but I want to see it happen. There's a story there. And if Carlos Barza regains the title, like she is suddenly one of my favorite fighters just because that's an incredible story.
Yeah, and then then you could parlay it into if it's Zhang Weili gets a win, you got that fresh matchup. If
exactly.
Joanna makes a case, that's another rematch. Yeah, it's just weird booking. We'll see. I do think the fight is going to be much different from the first one. I hope it is, because I do think Zhang has a lot to offer for Rose.
Yeah, I do. I think Rose pieces her up, dings her up, eventually hits her. Especially if we're seeing a Rose Namajunas now that's like hitting with more knockout power. Like, fuck yes, one of my favorite fighters.
Absolutely. Quickly running down the rest of this card, dude, it is insane. All action. I think this. Listen, these two gentlemen are two of the best action fighters, I think, of our generation. Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje. I mean, when is the last time? I don't think there's ever been a time where you can say a Michael Chandler Justin Gaethje fight was boring. I mean, these guys, they both they're both kind of similar where, like, I think they have good chins, but I think they get rocked a lot. And we've seen them both get stopped. There is literally no way this fight goes all 3 rounds. Someone's getting finished. The matchmaking is excellent. One of probably the best, the fights that I am most excited about in a long time. I'm so excited for it, man.
Yeah, same. And that, I feel like that having that fight on this card makes it feel like a really, really big card, even though, because anymore, I feel like they do so many 2 championship fight pay-per-views that it doesn't feel like a big thing when there's two title fights on the card. And neither, I mean, Usman is a pretty big star, but not a mega star. Rose Namajunas, Zhang Weili, at least in the United States, neither one of them are like mega stars, but you throw this just like take your pants off all violence fight there in the middle of the card. Like, now it feels like a big card because you have a fight that hardcore fans have been salivating for, that everybody wants, that is like just absolutely guaranteed to deliver. The price of admission, I would say, even.
Yeah,
like,
dude. Just bleed, baby.
I don't, insane. If they put that at the top of a pay-per-view, it would not make much sense, but I would be just as excited as any other pay-per-view. Like, that is a banger. I wish it was 5 rounds. I'll say that. But like you said, I don't think it goes past 3. But it would be exciting to see them get one of them get a late finish.
Early prediction.
Gaethje, 3rd round TKO. Leg kicks are a problem, and he shores up his wrestling defense.
Man, that's a hard one. I love both of these guys. I'd probably lean Gaethje as well, but I would not be surprised if Chandler goes out there and finish. Here's the thing: I think Chandler early, Gaethje late. For
sure. Chandler will come out fucking guns blazing, ready to go. And Gaethje comes out fast too, but he's also hittable early.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. Sean Strickland, Luke Rockhold ends up on this card. Love that fight. I think it's interesting for Rockhold coming back. I think it gives Sean Strickland another big name. Love this one as well. Jermaine Durandamy, Irene Aldana. That's a big fight in the women's bantamweight division. Probably the winner of that might be next for the champ. Well, maybe not. I don't know about Durandamy. She's kind of in no women's land out there. She already lost to Nunes, twice? Or was she once?
I think just once, but she'd have to do.
No,
twice. Did she lose twice?
I think she lost twice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean she's in a rough spot. That's a fun fight though. Probably two of the best
fight.
strikers not named Amanda Nunes in the bantamweight division.
Very good fight. Frankie Edgar, Marlon Vera, and I heard a rumor that Sean O'Malley actually turned down the Frankie Edgar fight. Didn't read into why, but I do like Frankie and Marlon, and then the return of Ally Aquinta, going to be taking on Bobby Green, who's kind of been on a roll in this. I know, he really lost his last fight, but or did he lose his last two or something? Well, he was doing really well in he was
Pandemic
like
in the Apex.
Yeah,
he's lost two in a row now. And his last one was to Rafael Fiziev and Thiago Moises, which is not too bad.
Exactly. So I'm pretty pumped about Ally Aquinta's return. That's going to be an excellent card.
Yeah, I hope it stays together. Knock on wood. We got a ways to go till November 6th.
And then the pay-per-view after December 11th, UFC 269. Charles Oliveira going to be defending against Dustin Poirier. I'm glad Poirier is going this route and not chasing like a Nate Diaz fight or anything. I think Dustin Poirier should be the champion right now after that third fight over Conor McGregor. I think he's definitely top 2 in the world, right? This is the fight that makes sense, and I'm glad that he is going to get a chance to fight for the title again. I will say that.
If Dustin Poirier wins, he's your fighter of the year. Because he would have 2 wins over McGregor and a championship win over Oliveira. He has to be, if he wins the title
that
and
would
has
be
2 of the biggest like money wins in the sport.
That would be your 2 guys,
so.
probably. Yeah,
I think so.
I agree with that. Okay. Yep, makes sense.
Too bad though. Sorry if you're Dustin Poirier fans. I think Charles Oliveira.
Are you picking Oliveira over Poirier?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I think Oliveira is the best lightweight in the world. Period. I think
you did say that.
Well, and I have to stick by that article that I was talking about. I picked Oliveira to be the lightweight champion at the end of this year, so I can't back out on that now. But truthfully, without that involved, I do think Oliveira is just the better fighter.
Did they have odds out for that yet?
They should. Let me see on Best Fights odds.
I'm trying to look too.
I might have to put my money where my mouth is, man. I think at this point, both these guys have a lot of miles on them, but Poirier, I think especially, has a ton of miles. Even his first fight with McGregor wasn't super easy. They got Poirier.
Minus 158.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Might have to take a little ride on the Oliveira train.
Oh, dude, we totally screwed up, by the way. There is a fight card this weekend.
Yeah, we could still talk about that. That's all good.
Yeah, let's jump into that quick. Pretty big main event.
Dude, like I said at the top of the show, real quick, all these fight cards kind of blend in together. They're okay. They're entertaining. I really like that Jared Cannonier fight, but it's like, fuck, we got so many fight night cards that have 1 or 2 like good relevant fights on them, and the rest is like fun fights, but nothing that I can recall.
And that's how this one is. Big main event, and then the rest of the card, there's some names to keep an eye on. But nonetheless, big main event. Derek Brunson taking on Darren Till. Derek Brunson's on a 4-fight win streak, and he's kind of dispelled a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the assumptions about him, right? Mm-hmm. Where he can't win the big fight, he loses his head in big fights. And Darren Till is, I mean, even since the Tyron Woodley fight, he's been kind of on and off. He lost to Tyron Woodley, got knocked out by Masvidal, and then had the 2 close, the alternating win-loss with Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum. The betting odds are pretty steep here. I just had them up too, and I fucking took them off. But I believe Darren Till is a pretty sizable favorite. Yeah, he's like minus 185, minus 170, minus 180. Dude, I gotta say, man, if I'm betting on this fight, my money's with Derek Brunson. I've been pretty damn high on the Derek Brunson train lately, and I think he keeps it going here. I think he's going to be able to put Darren Till on his back. We saw it in his fight with Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland was like trying to bait him into a firefight. We saw him rock Derek Brunson, and Derek Brunson stuck to the game plan and got takedowns. It's going to be close, but I'm riding Derek Brunson here. I think he gets another win.
I mean, you might have convinced me, actually, especially because do you remember us talking about that Kevin Holland, Derek Brunson fight? And we were, I think, unsure of how to pick it, but both of us said, like, if there's a guy that's going to bring out the old Derek Brunson who loses his head in fights and like has terrible fight IQ, it's going to be Kevin Holland. And God, did Kevin Holland try to do that to him and actually did find some success, but it wasn't due to Kevin Holland talking to him. So I think you're right that Derek Brunson has like kind of fully put those skeletons in his closet, so to speak, to rest. Like he's mentally there. I think a lot of that has to do with him changing camps, training with Henry Hooft. I think he's looked really, really good since he's switched to that camp, like way more pared down in his striking. And I think he knows what he has to do to win. And I think it's get Darren Till on the ground. The issue is getting caught by Darren Till counters on the way in, like Darren Till with a phenomenal, like southpaw knee, southpaw left roundhouse kick, all that shit that he keeps on a trigger just to catch guys on the counter when they come in. But I don't know, man. I think I might be riding with Derek Brunson too. He's so well coached, and he seems to be way more coachable lately. So I don't think he's going to be reckless. I don't think he's going to get caught a ton on the feed. And I think, you know, I know Brunson doesn't necessarily have the best chin, but neither does Till, right? He was finished by Jorge Masvidal and, you know, basically knocked almost out by Tyron Woodley as well. Yes. So, yeah, maybe I'm riding with Brunson as well. Dude, I think he can get some takedowns and make Till way more cautious on the feet.
Listen to Derek Brunson's losses in the UFC. Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker, Anderson Silva, Jacare Souza, Israel Adesanya. That's it. I mean, the guy has fought the best. He's beat some of the best, and he only loses to the best. Now, Darren Till could be on that level. I tend to think he is, but I slightly favor Derek Brunson in this fight just to stick to a game plan, put Till on his back, and keep him there. I will say, we kind of talked about this last week, Darren Till is the one guy in that division where if he gets a big, flashy knockout win here, and maybe he doesn't even have to knock him out, just an impressive win, he could jump the queue and be next in line for a title shot. Gumby Vreeland actually went as far to say as if Darren Till wins straight up this weekend, he's going to get the next title shot before Robert Whittaker. I don't think that's the case, but man, I do think he's going to put himself right at the front of the line.
I would lose my fucking mind.
We all would.
I mean, Derek Brunson might have a better argument for getting a title shot than Darren Till, like with a win.
With a win, 100%. 100%.
Just on the fact that he has a streak, and Darren Till has no streak right now.
No streak.
I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't think it will.
I don't know. I think this is kind of Darren Till's chance. I feel like he's had a bunch of chances, but a big chance for him to kind of show us that he is that guy. Like, is he about it or is he not?
He's more than just an internet personality.
Right. Because he has his most recent win, that split over against Gastelum, super, super, super close fight. Before that, his last win was against Stephen Thompson, and I felt like that was a terrible decision.
That was a bad decision, yeah.
I thought Stephen Thompson won that fight. And then if you go back before that, we're talking about fucking Donald Cerrone in 2017. So it's hard to get a handle on exactly how good Darren Till is. But this will be his chance. I mean, he's fighting a guy that at least has the skills to take him down. I think Brunson has some level of knockout power too. So this is kind of like a put up or shut up moment for Darren Till.
Yeah. Big fight though. Tom Aspinall in the co-main event, he's going to be fighting Sergey Spivak, but I'm very high on Tom Aspinall. I think you are as well. I think most people should be. The guy is a stud. Here's a name for the hardcores that we've had our eye on for a long time that most people probably aren't going to recognize, but it's worth keeping your eye on. Paddy Pimblett finally making his UFC debut. Paddy Pimblett was a multiple-time Cage Warriors champion. He actually turned down the opportunity to fight in the UFC a couple times, but he's finally making his debut, taking on Luigi Vendramini. So keep your eye on that one. Ludwig Shaolinian was on The Ultimate Fighter. He's going to be fighting Jack Shore late notice. Pretty good card, though. Khalil Roundtree's back. Alex Morono is on this card. Alex Perez, Matt Schnell should be fun. So it should be a pretty fun card. Again, outside of the main event. Not the biggest names, but there's some fights to keep your eye on.
Yeah, like I said, they all blend in. There's going to be some good violence. I'm pretty high on Jack Shore. I think he's like maybe 3-0 or even 4-0 in the UFC. How good is that? How good is Ludwig Sholinian?
He's good. He's a really good grappler. He's like from Uzbekistan descent. Very good grappler. Got a good chin, good cardio. It should be a good test for Jack Shore, but I favor Jack Shore here.
Okay. I do like also that this is just a 10 fight card. Like,
yes,
get in, get out. I don't need those fucking 6.5 hour UFC events.
Dude, it's brutal. Brutal.
Especially, I mean, if I pay for a nice ticket, I feel kind of obligated to see every fight.
Oh yeah. 100%.
If you're going to a 7-hour, 6-hour UFC card, you are like, I might as well be at a fucking campsite or something.
I know, right?
It's so long. So that a 10, I sound like such an asshole complaining about too many fights, but a 10 fight card is like,
it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in, get out. Absolutely. All right, dude. I think we hit everything.
Yeah, a lot of big stuff to talk about.
A lot of stuff. So thank you all for listening. As always, please hit us with a follow and a subscribe on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Face the pain.